This video we are going to see an overview of API security log, how enforced policy get checked and rules are followed for each traffic, and we will inspect policy violation in detail through execution logs. To access security logs, you have to go here. By default, you'll have few filters on, which is internal and external traffic true. On the left hand side, you will see a list of query filters. Please note that before you go into the logs for checking, make sure that you have few of the policies enforced like here. In order to enforce a policy, you just have to go in 3-dot menu and click on enforce. As we can see, I have a bunch of rule groups or security policies enforced. That means every time a traffic comes in, all these rules will be checked. Let's go to logs view. This is the list of all the transactions that are going on. So we have a request timestamp, transaction ID, environment, location from which it has triggered, domain, method, URI, status code, trace ID, source IP, threats that were detected, priority of the threats, type of traffic, zip code, and operation that was associated with it. If you want to take a look at specific violations, you can go on the left hand side and select on threats. So let's take a look at protocol enforcement validator and filter with it. Let's close this view. On the top, you can see that you have applied a filter of a threat pattern which checks for protocol enforcement. Let's take a look at this transaction now. So this is the view of an execution log for the entire security pipeline. As we can see, this is the transaction that we are looking at currently, which has all these details from the previous view. You can see here that these are the rule groups that you had enforced in the security pipeline, specific policy that shows that it has gotten violated by the traffic. And if we see, the precondition here was either the request path should match this regex or query param should match this regex. So since there is an OR condition, this has gotten matched and the precondition got satisfied. Hence, the system went ahead with the checking of rule. As we can see here, the rule inside this policy was failed to parse request body and it got violated. And I can see that the assertion that it checked was request body was absent and it was found to be true. It was absent and hence it took this action. We can also see that email notification action was executed here and ID for the InfoSec team was sent here. Lastly, we can see that the scope of this rule is global. That means it is applicable to all the APIs in your system. So like this, with this view, you will be able to see exact execution of which policy was violated and because of what type of transaction it got violated. Suppose if I want to inspect what was there in the request, I can go in this inspect tab. I can see the request details, headers, and in the response, what response I gave. I can also see that the header, query path, form data, and request body were not following the design intended for this API. You can also replay. In case you fixed something, like maybe you made something compliant, you can also click on replay and it will resend the execution and see how it behaves again in similar situation and how your policy reacts to it. If you go back and if you want to look at specific views, for example, protocol enforcement validator is selected here. I can click on save as view and I can put a name to this. I can scroll down and save it as a view. So from next time, I just have to come here in the views and click on protocol validity. So it will by default filter with this specific threat pattern filter. And all these transactions that I'm seeing here have that particular type of threat. And I can go at any point inside and see which policies got violated and what was the reason behind it.